Hi everyone, welcome to the Product Marketing Festival. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the sessions that we have lined up for you today. With expert presentations, specialist talks and deep dive panel sessions on the agenda, suffice to say, you're in for a treat. Just before we jump in, I want to take a moment to thank everyone who's played a part in making this event possible. Our sponsors, partners, speakers, presenters, and of course you, the product marketing community. You can engage with all our speakers and their sessions today by posting your questions in the comments section of the broadcast, or you can reach out to them in our Slack community. Remember, you can catch up with all this week's content on demand, plus a whole host of other amazing benefits by becoming a PMA member. And whilst you're at it, why not check out Product Marketing Core, our industry-renowned certification. But for now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next session.
Hi all, today I'll be bringing you through how to launch a product, why and how to localize. I'm Qishen, APAC Head of Product Marketing at Wise. I enjoy uncovering user insights to influence product and launches. I'm a huge advocate for APAC customers and love championing their needs to the global teams. Wise is a global fintech company which aims to make your life easier when it comes to sending, spending, or receiving money around the world. It started when our founders, Tavet and Christo, realized how much it costs to transfer money between UK and Estonia. Tavet was based in London but paid in euros. Christo worked in London but was paying a mortgage in Estonia in euros. They decided to exchange money between themselves using the real exchange rate, like the one you see on Google, without markup and fees charged by banks. They realized millions around the world could do the same, and here we are today. Our mission is to power money for people and businesses in their global lives, to pay, to get paid, to spend in any currency wherever they are, whatever they are doing. Today, 10 million customers use us around the world, and we save them over £1 billion each year. So with the understanding of what Wise does and the service we offer, let's jump into why localization is so important. So here's an example of an ad by a luxury fashion brand, which received criticism around how solemn and dark it portrayed Chinese New Year. So Chinese New Year is an important festival for Chinese in a few Asian markets where family comes together to celebrate the reunion and the start of a new lunar year. And the way that the brand has chosen to portray family reunion is slightly different. It uses a lot of dark colors, which is not normal in celebrating and portraying Chinese New Year. And as a result, it got quite some negative backlash on this. So as international brands enter new markets, we want to ensure that we are adopting the right creative approach to gain the trust of our local audience. We need to resonate with the market, meet audience needs while maintaining our brand identity. So we definitely don't want to come across as an outsider brand just launching what worked previously in other markets and not take cultural nuances of the local markets into consideration. And that's why localization is so important. So I had the task of launching Wise multi-currency account and debit card in Japan, and here's some context on the product. It's a product that allows you to spend in multiple currencies at a real exchange rate, hold and convert over 50 currencies. Is really easy to apply online on our web and app. And before launching in Japan, we have already launched it in other parts of the world with fairly different positioning and fairly different creative approach. And before every launch, we look at the market landscape and speak with customers locally to get insights to inform our launches. Here's what we know about the market. Less than 10% of the population speak English. Cash is still king. However, the government is aiming to double cashless payments by 2025, which is good news for us. And here are the key insights from the interviews and surveys that we ran. We interviewed 15 residents, both expats and locals. We surveyed over 1,000 people living in Japan. Our key findings were that multi-currency product isn't well understood in the market. Price is of the top consideration. However, most people aren't aware of hidden bank fees when they spend in foreign currencies with their bank cards. Online shopping is huge in Japan. And lastly, it's a huge hassle for expats to apply for any form of bank account or cards in Japan. And then we develop actions from these insights to focus on what we need to do when launching our product in the market. For the first point, we decided that we really have to educate the market on the product benefits of a multi-currency account and card. For the second point, we want to show people how the Wise debit card can actually save them money since they care about pricing and saving money. For the third point, we like to call out the shopping use case, which we have not called out in previous launches in other parts of the world. And lastly, because it's such a hassle for expats to get access to account and cards, we really wanted to highlight the convenience of doing so with Wise. We then look at who we could potentially target. So across Japan, these are our main target audience that we narrowed down to. So there are 2.8 million expats in Japan. They need to send money back home and spend with the card locally in Japan or overseas when they travel around the region or go back home to visit their family. The second group are online shoppers. So there are about 20 million online shoppers who actually shop from overseas. What they want is to avoid high bank foreign transaction fees when paying in foreign currencies. And the last group, it's 20 million travelers who need to pay in foreign currencies when they are traveling for business or leisure. They want the convenience of not carrying cash around, and they want to save money on bank fees. However, because we launched the debit card when COVID struck, so we did not focus that much on the travel use case. We then looked at the competitive landscape, and as discovered in our customer research, multi-currency products awareness is fairly low. Expats mainly own debit card because they can't actually get credit cards in Japan. Locals use credit cards to earn points, but are paying high fees when they need to spend in foreign currencies. People know that they are being charged fees when they spend in foreign currencies, but they just don't know exactly what the different fees stand for. So there's a huge opportunity for us to educate the market here. We then compare ourselves against competitors on this grid, and the Wise account and card lets customers spend in the most number of currencies, has good multilingual UI, supports sending and receiving money besides spending, and it has a very low one-time sign-up fee with no annual fees, no foreign transaction fees. So in a nutshell, this is what we found. Japan is aware of high fees, the slow and inefficient ways of finance, but people are often too busy to seek better alternatives. They have accepted the old-fashioned and time-consuming processes when it comes to applying for account and card. And there's also a lack of better alternatives in the market, which explains why people aren't aware of better solutions, as we discovered in our user research. So what Wise really needed to do is to raise these issues, the old ways of payments, in a somewhat engaging and fun way. We needed to start a conversation and appeal to the market by tapping into the consumer problems and let them know that there's a better solution with Wise. So this is the problem statement. Banks often overcharge when spending in foreign currencies. It's also complicated to open an account or get a card. A customer would have to go to the branch, fill out forms, and these forms are most often all in Japanese. The whole experience, as described by customers, is just fairly clunky and painful. And with Wise, we are 4 times cheaper than banks to spend in foreign currencies. We offer customers the real exchange rate when they are spending. And besides that, we also offer multilingual app and web, similar sign-up process, and other features like multilingual customer support. So this is the approach that we took. We had to firstly demonstrate what hidden fees are, how this can be avoided with Wise. We had to appeal to Japan by tapping onto their grievances and showcase how Wise offers the solution to their problems and educate them on the product benefits that can help solve these problems. And lastly, we want to launch a kick-ass creative campaign relevant to Japan while communicating our product benefits. So this is the big idea and how we landed on it. We want Japan to step away from banks and to welcome Wise, this fintech player in the market. We want them to say goodbye to bank fees and inconveniences and say hello to Wise. So before we began creative brainstorming, we looked at advertising trends in Japan. We spoke with employees who work in our Tokyo office, and we look at what other companies were doing. So Japan market generally likes to have all the information presented up front, use cartoons or animes. This is very different to Wise. We often strive for a clean, minimalistic style guide. We don't have any Japanese designer in-house who would be able to grasp the local market nuances, and we decided to work with a local creative agency on conceptualizing. So after many rounds of agency pitches and revisions, we arrived at this money monster concept. So the monster portrays inconveniences and high fees in Japan, and we wanted to bring those issues to life by using this character. And it's also inspired by different Japanese elements like the origami, which the head symbolizes, and hanko stamp. So the hanko stamp is something that people in Japan would have and use for official purpose, like opening up a bank account. It represents something like their signature. So this was our design thinking, our starting point, and where we kicked off. And of course, after multiple rounds of iteration, here's the final creative output. We had a lot of back and forth between our design team and the external creative agency. We had to keep a good balance of speaking to the Japan market while ensuring that the creative meets our brand identity and guideline. So we had to pare down the design to make the artwork flatter and cleaner according to WISE guidelines. We also did an explainer video on how the product works in Japanese. We ran ads on paid social, Google Display, and more. On our landing page, we compared our fees against that of the competitors by commissioning a third-party data research to show Japan exactly how much cheaper it is to spend with WiseCard, and to educate them on how much money they could actually save if they were to use our card to spend in foreign currencies. And in our emails, we also educated them on how they're actually being charged by banks, touching on things like exchange rate markup and foreign transaction fees by banks, and how exactly Wise can help them save more money. And here are the video ads that we ran across YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I really like the one with the monster. That's where we flush out the use case of online shopping and also travel. And I also really like the one where we had the temple in the background. So oftentimes what we felt worked really well for us was a shot of the product with like a landscape of the city that we are launching in the background, so that it's relevant to the local audience. Because localization is really a lot more than just simple translations. It's really important that we get this right, especially launching a brand new product in the market. And we actually tested the creative. We put the Money Monster creative to a test against the usual Wise creatives that we had run. So on email, the Money Monster creative actually outperformed the standard product shot with the card, as you could see on the slide. And on paid social, our Meet Wise creative with the card against a cityscape actually won the Money Monster creative. We still had tests running on other channels, but we had to pause them because fun fact, we used to be called TransferWise because we started off with our remittance service, and we very recently rebranded back in March to Wise because now we offer multi-currency account and card besides our money transfer service. And this card was launched before the rebranding was done, which explained why we had to pause some of the tests that we were running. So some iterations that we would make would be to include our branding up front, to be mentioned throughout the Money Monster video before we resume the testing. We should have done that at the start, but then we found through serving YouTube ads that most people drop out after a number of seconds and they didn't even get to see our card or the brand. So that's something we can definitely improve on. And just some feedback from people in Japan. They were really ecstatic to finally have the card in Japan, and also showed some love for our creative, our little money monster, as well as our card. So that's just an example of how we localize our product and our marketing efforts when launching a new product in a new market like Japan, right? But besides launching in a highly nuanced market like Japan, we have also localized our marketing efforts when launching the debit card in other markets, like for instance in Australia. So these are just some examples of the creatives that we put out in the market. When we launch in Australia, we tend to do a lot of fun creative content featuring some local activities that the market would be familiar with. We also do a lot of customer testimonials. For instance, these are real Australian customers who are living abroad, who are traveling abroad, who has experience with the Wise card. Cool. So here are the key learnings of a go-to-market strategy, right? Working on a go-to-market strategy and also localizing a product launch in a market like Japan. We learned that it's really important to talk to customers and user test the content multiple times before going live. So what you are seeing now has been tested with like Japanese employees, as well as our customers who are not using the card, who has not heard about the card yet. We got their feedback and tweak everything accordingly to refine them over time. Secondly is to really understand the use cases and needs that we are trying to solve. For instance, when we launched the debit card in Australia, it was positioned heavily as a travel card because travel money cards are very common in Australia. But then when it comes to Japan, domestic travel within Japan is pretty huge. And that's where our card may not be as beneficial because there's no need to spend in foreign currencies. So we made the decision to focus quite a fair bit on the online shopping use case. Thirdly, localization is really far beyond translation. Translation is just the basic. Of course, it needs to be done. But when we talk about localization, it has to do with the style that we are using, the colors, the characters, the way that we animate. So it's really all encompassing. Fourthly, this is more a point for myself. So ways to ensure there's very prominent branding in every piece of asset that you're putting out there. Especially when it's a long form video content. And also the last one is to always sense check your creatives just to make sure that they resonate well with the market. So this corresponds with the point on user testing. Cool. So that's all I have to share. I hope you guys find it helpful. If you have any questions, just feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to have a discussion on localization, or if you need any advice or input on the APAC markets, I'll be happy to help you with them. Thank you.